All right, kids, it's story time again. Are you ready for a story about Jesus? Well, let's get started. Our story today is titled The Miracles of Jesus. It was written by Catherine Selleck and illustrated by Simone Sanfilippo. Jesus loved to teach God's message, and people loved to listen to him. They followed him everywhere. But one day, Jesus was sad because his cousin John had died. Jesus got on a boat to rest and pray. When he came back to shore, the people were still waiting for him. Jesus welcomed them. He started to teach and heal the sick people. All day, Jesus spoke to the crowd. When evening came, the disciples said to Jesus, "It's late, and these people are far from home. Send them away so they can buy some food." "You can give them some food," replied Jesus. "That would cost too much," the disciples grumbled. "Go and find out how much food we have," Jesus told his disciples. The disciples went off among the crowd. They came back with a boy who had 5 loaves and 2 fishes. 5 loaves and 2 fishes. That's only enough to fill one dish. "This won't be enough to feed the crowd," they said. "There must be 5,000 people." Jesus told the disciples to sit everyone down in groups. Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes and thanked God for the food. Then he divided the food into baskets for each of the disciples. The disciples shared the food among the people. Everyone ate as much as they wanted. Crunch, munch, yum. After everyone had eaten, the disciples collected the baskets. When they came back, the 12 baskets were full of food. They couldn't believe their eyes. Later, Jesus and his disciples went down to the lake. They were going to a town on the other side. The disciples climbed into the boat. Jesus stayed behind. "You go on ahead," he told the disciples. "I have something I need to do first." At last, the crowd went home. Jesus sat alone on the mountain to pray. Later that night, Jesus looked out over the lake. The boat was now far from the shore, tossing this way and that. The disciples were struggling to row the boat, fighting against the waves and the wind. It was still dark when the disciples saw a white figure coming toward them. They were terrified. "It's a ghost!" they cried. But it was Jesus walking on the water. Jesus called to the disciples, "Be brave. It's only me." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said. So Peter got out of the boat and he walked on the water towards Jesus. But he was scared and began to sink. "Save me," he cried. Jesus held out his hand and caught Peter. "Did you doubt that God would save you?" Jesus asked. As they climbed back in the boat, the wind died down. The disciples were amazed. "You really are the Son of God," they said to Jesus. Wasn't that an awesome story? The miracles of Jesus. Wasn't it amazing that Jesus was able to feed more than 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread and 5 fishes? And wasn't it amazing that Jesus was able to walk on water? I can't walk on water, can you? If I walk on water, I'm going to get wet because I'm going to go in like Peter did. But that was not the only miracles that Jesus performed. Jesus performed so many more miracles. He healed so many people who were sick. He calmed the storm just with a word. He even raised Lazarus from the dead because he's God's son, because he has the power of God. He has the power over nature. He has the power over death. He has the power over disease. All that power was in Jesus because of who he was. He was the Son of God. It wasn't magic tricks, because magic tricks are just that. They're tricks. They fool you into believing something with your eyes that didn't really happen. But miracles really happened because he was God's son and he was able to perform those miracles. So, we're going to ask a few questions here about what the story taught us. So pay attention. All right, it's time for our questions. So, let me ask you the questions. Why was Jesus sad? Well, he was sad because his cousin John had died. And so he was very sad because of that, because he and his cousin John were very close. How many people were in the crowd? That's right. Over 5,000 people were in the crowd that Jesus spoke to. What food did the disciples find? Well, they found 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. Did you hear Mr. Charlie made a mistake just a few minutes ago? Did you catch what he said? Were you listening carefully? Well, a while ago, Mr. Charlie said 5 fishes and 2 loaves of bread. What? Mr. Charlie, it wasn't 5 fishes and 2 loaves of bread, Mr. Silly. It was 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. So how many loaves of bread? 5. And how many fishes? 2. Did you hear him make that mistake a while ago? You got to listen carefully. All right. Now, next question. How many baskets of leftovers were there? There were 12 baskets of leftovers. Isn't that awesome? Now, let's talk about the other miracle he performed in our story today. Well, I just told you the answer. Who walked on the water? Jesus, that's right. Jesus walked on the water. And what apostle had faith in Jesus? Well, the apostle Peter, because he climbed out of the boat and he walked on the water. Now, I know Peter got scared there for a minute, and he sunk and he hollered for Jesus to save him. But who did he holler to save him? He hollered for Jesus. So he had faith that Jesus would save him. And when Jesus reached out his hand, what happened? Peter was saved. Well, what does the story tell us? Well, it tells us that Jesus has the power to perform miracles. And he is God's son because of that. And so we'll learn more about Jesus on another day. Today, that's the end of our story. We miss you and we love you. And we hope to see you soon. But until then, until we meet again, bye-bye.